Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of these crazy people that just keep eating meat and can't shut up about it. Today, we got a special guest. I got a couple of the usual suspects, of course, but Austin has joined us. Austin, I think I met her on Facebook. We've been talking for a while, but I haven't been doing a lot of social media lately, and I've been promising to get her in here to talk. She's a very interesting person. She's got a lot of experience. And so we've been really excited to think about having her on, and she's finally here.
Yes,
So why don't you just kind of introduce yourself?
absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I am a trained physician assistant, and I have my worlds have collided as far as medicine and this carnivore lifestyle, where I am now helping people as a dietary consultant, working more in functional medicine. I was in the hospital for all of my career for 6 years, and it just didn't resonate in the sense that lifestyle is not looked at, and patients were given cookies and ice cream and soda in the hospital, and never really asked about what they're putting in their mouths as far as their symptoms, their pain, their inflammation. Worked mostly in inflammatory conditions where, of course, we all know in this space that inflammation is really the root cause of these diseases. So yeah, I was keto and carnivore myself and wanted to help people in that way. So that is where I am now, and I am absolutely loving it.
Excellent. So what do you how do you connect with people?
So I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, and I'm looking to start a YouTube channel just to kind of get the information out there and spread the word in the sense of topics that people want to hear about, whether it's the science or even, people love recipes in the carnivore space. It's funny to see how creative we can get with just meat and eggs and
Oh, yeah.
organs. So it's even that, just being around like-minded community. But those are my main platforms.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll have to put that in the show notes so people can click their way to
Definitely.
you.
And they're
So
all, I have a website, qualitycarnivore.com as well, that has all my links to those. So we'll get all that information for
I think you'll
everyone.
find her in some of my Facebook groups for the people out there who are you'll see her in there. You just look her up. So
Yeah, definitely.
So, what, how has this COVID-19 lockdown affected things for you in the carnivore sector?
Um, it hasn't really. Luckily, with clients, all consultations are virtual, so just getting used to Zoom. But otherwise, yeah, it really hasn't. My local farm has been open here, so I'm still eating
Excellent.
well. And yeah, I've even been, helping them get food out because people are nervous to go. Farmers markets are a big thing here in California, so there've been restrictions on that with COVID, so they're more apt to come to kind of the private store. So helping them there has been also something that I've been doing just to, again, help the community and make sure that we're all well fed with quality sources.
Excellent. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's just a matter of first understanding what to eat, and then I think we all kind of gradually want to get better and better sources, more ideal
Yeah,
sources.
for
So,
sure. As long as you're going for the animal proteins and fats, honestly, it helps keep you full. You're not eating as much, especially during COVID. A lot of people found, well, you'd see anyway that they're snacking or they're gaining weight, and then there was the huge rush to the grocery stores for the at the meat counter, and yeah, people see, even if they're not fully carnivore and they still are eating plants and stuff, that these local farmers are so important.
oh yeah, for sure. It's a good thing the cows don't get COVID, right?
That's right. How about you guys? How have you been affected?
Uh,
Yeah, the gyms for me has been affected
Oh
quite a
yeah,
bit.
that's a
So
big
yeah,
one.
that's yeah. I mean they're open now, so but that's nice. that's the main thing. And that we did have that beef shortage.
Yeah.
I was just grabbing whatever I could at that point. So
Yeah.
that was disappointing. I've had a few people quit carnivore that I just got started during that time, and they couldn't keep up because they couldn't get enough meat. Well, you make your excuses, but
Yeah. No, I have definitely been looking even because delivery services were slow. It's because they were in such high demand. So people were like, everything's out at US Wellness or at this location or that location. So one that I do recommend to a lot of people is eatwild.com, where they can
yes.
actually search locally to find sources. So people who weren't aware of that were like, oh my God, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's the future of these networks to help us find food that's closer. I know every time I want to get something at US Wellness Foods, it's always sold out.
I was sold
It's
out.
always
Yeah.
sold out, or it just takes a while.
Too popular.
They're having big promotion. Belcampo's another one. They're having a huge promotion right now, and yeah, it's like 20% off. Then if you use my code Quality Carnivore 10, you get an additional 10% off. So I've been telling people about that, but yeah, you go on the site and they're like, out of this, out of that. So
Yeah, definitely have to send me the links for those
yes, for sure.
with your promo code.
Yes.
That's very cool.
I'm trying, but like you said, delivery it's so convenient for people, especially right now that has slowed down.
Yep. Yeah,
I,
it's good stuff. I think in the end, the sort of forced acceleration of the development of delivery of quality foods is probably one of the few benefits we'll get out of this long lockdown.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of pushing people to look around closer to try and source things too.
Definitely. Yeah, less shipping, less need to. I mean, Amazon is gonna always crush it, but but not for meat.
Right. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Although I live in an area where we're surrounded by Amazon warehouses, so
Oh, really?
yeah,
You never know.
you never know. So what do you typically eat in a day?
So I am a mostly beef and lamb person. I don't do chicken and pork. I just don't find them as satiating. So it's beef, lamb, and organ meats. That's my day. Very occasionally I'll do seafood. It's usually in the summertime when I can get it fresh and it's just raw. But yeah, so all cuts of beef, all cuts of lamb. I really don't do ground. Just again, it's not as satiating to me, so I'm totally a steak person.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, my favorites are probably, ribeye. Um, I do a lot of hanger steaks for sure.
It's
Flat
funny because I
iron.
don't see a lot of hanger steaks for sale.
Yeah, so that's where I get them locally, and oh my God, they're a really beefy flavor. So for me, that beefier flavor, similar with a flat iron, it has much more of a beefy taste as compared to, I don't know, grass-fed strips haven't been doing it for me lately. So hangers, flat irons, flanks, and ribeyes are kind of my go-to. And when I'm feeling like a lean cut, I'll go for like a top sirloin.
Yeah, both the flat iron and the hanger steak are ones that seem to be tough to come by, and I often wonder if it's just because they're so flavorful. Those are the first ones to go.
Yeah, they are definitely up there in price with the ribeyes. So
Yes.
yeah.
And flank's one of my favorites too, but that's up in price also.
Yeah. And as far as lamb, obviously lamb chops, but if I could afford to eat lamb chops every day,
Oh, of course.
that would be the life.
Yeah, Justin and I were talking about that today. He was cooking up some what cut was that? A loin?
I had loin. Yeah, I had
Loin
lamb
chops?
loin last night. Yeah, for the
Right.
first time, actually, it's my first time having it. Just hadn't done it yet.
Oh, what do you think?
It was good. I thought it had a different flavor. It's just that kind of weird thing that until you're carnivore, you don't notice that each of the animals have their own flavor.
Yeah,
Bison tastes a little different than, the cow or whatever.
definitely.
Lamb tastes different than pig, et cetera, et cetera. And so that kind of surprised me. The texture is what I thought was amazing, though. Just the tenderness was
Very tender.
unreal. so soft, you know, just melted in your mouth, you
Yeah.
know. The flavor did take a little getting used to, you know, but like there were certain spots where it just hit me just right, and like it
Yeah.
was just absolutely heavenly and delicious. So, you know, it's really good. I still think at the time or right now, I'd say I still prefer, you know, a good ribeye. You know what I mean? Or a New York. You know, those are my general go-tos is New York or ribeye. You know, um, so when I talk to you about other people, and I hope you don't take offense, I call you the intimidating carnivore because you take pictures of your plates and there's like all these organs. And I know you
Yes.
eat organs raw as well. And I'm
Yes.
always like, that's so like hardcore. Like that's so awesome. Like that's so cool. Because
I,
there's
it's really not like because it was funny because I was with some friends recently and a friend of mine asked me, he says, so what is it that you eat that you like you eat it, but you don't enjoy it and you just do it for the benefit? And I sat there and I was like, wow, that's a really good question. But honestly, I enjoy all of it. Like there's not something that I eat that I'm just swallowing it down to swallow it down. Like I taste all the organs and I try them all out different, cooking them different ways just to see if texture or taste changes, and to see what I prefer. But a lot of times it's raw, that I prefer. Sweetbreads was one that we had last night, and that I think is better cooked. So because of the membrane, I think it was the best grilled, and I've also done it pan seared. But raw, it just doesn't. It's not as the texture isn't as good. But yeah, the raw organs are the liver. It tastes sweeter to me when it's raw.
Totally,
Yeah,
I totally agree.
I don't like cooked liver, but
Yeah.
and it tastes all right raw. It's still not my favorite.
Yeah.
And Justin I were also talking about it's not just like the meat of the animals that tastes different from animal to animal, but the organs do too.
Oh,
So
definitely.
lamb brains taste different than cow brains, and cow brains taste different than pig brains, and
Absolutely.
pig liver tastes way different than cow liver, and of course
Yeah.
chicken
Even the
livers taste way,
kidneys, I've done lamb kidney and I've done beef kidney, and totally different,
yeah.
totally different. But yeah, no, so I don't mean to be intimidating, and I know a lot of people don't want to do that, do it raw or even, even cooked. Some of them are just like, no way. But I think it's more of a mental thing around the fact that it's an organ versus it being a steak. Because there's definitely times that I've seen people, when they put it in ground beef, and it's totally fine for them to eat it that way, but
Right.
it's like seeing it as a kidney or seeing it as a brain, it's like, no, I can't. Like the visual itself is too much.
Yeah, I made pemmican and I took dehydrated liver and kidney and ground it and put it in there, and it's very good that way.
Yeah.
That's
No,
probably
you
my
can
favorite way to
definitely
eat.
find ways, like if you are struggling with it and you do just want the nutrients, then there's definitely ways to hide it.
Yeah, or
Doesn't have to
just
be
like
raw.
just
Like,
cooking liver makes that liver taste more intense.
yeah, and I honestly think it's just like the heating of the minerals where it tastes more metallic-y.
When you
It's that
dehydrate it,
aftertaste that people talk about, and I just like it better raw.
yeah, no, when you dehydrate it, it seems to have the opposite effect for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just stumbled
Yeah,
on that.
now that you say that, I have tried like the liver crisps from
Oh,
Carnivore Aurelius, and
yes.
then Carnivore crisps have a dehydrated liver as well. And yeah, I would agree with that. That dehydrating it versus cooking it versus raw, they're all different tastes for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Do
So
you
how
guys
did
miss like something crispy? I hear that a lot from clients. Just wanting that crispy texture, like crunchy.
yeah,
I
I could
like
get that.
I like crispy fat, like with
Okay.
pan seared fat, like that does it for me. You know, I really like that. I don't think I really crave crunchy,
Yeah.
you know. But I could totally see that, you know, I'm guessing like bacon can often suffice. Bacon solves everything on carnivore,
Yeah,
right?
bacon or like pork rinds, I guess could be the substitute for sure.
I don't know. After my second year, I mean, no,
Yeah. I
it's,
personally don't, but I
yeah,
know clients are like, oh, it's just chewing meat. Like I want something crunchy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't mind.
I'll buy some pork rinds or something, and I'll eat a little bit of it, and then I totally lose interest, and they just go somewhere.
Right.
So
Yeah.
There. That's
I
it.
do that like once a year, just and I find them in the back of the cupboard, and I'm like, seemed like a good idea at the time, but
Yeah.
I was getting it from the cheese crisp for a little while there.
Okay.
The Parmesan cheese
Parm,
crisp. Yeah.
is it Parmesan crisps?
Yeah.
Or,
So I mean that seemed to get that feeling, but I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
Well, now that I'm not going to do cheese anymore, anyways. So, or we'll see how long that lasts, anyways.
you'll be on to a new theory next month. Come on.
I know, right? Yeah.
So
how
Austin,
how long did it take you to transition from the keto concept to the carnivore concept?
I was doing like on my transition, I'd probably say it was like a good 6 months maybe. And I was doing like, I don't know why, but I was doing spinach and I was doing macadamia nuts and I was doing avocado and lettuce and
Like
like
every
olives
single
and
person.
pickles. So it was like very minimal. And I've never been, once I went keto, I would rarely even do fruit anyway. So fruit was never a thing. Sweets were never really a thing. So it was just random kind of salty vegetable, more like vehicles for lunches or things like that, to have a lettuce wrap or to have an avocado on top of my eggs and bacon, like smaller things like that. But yeah, once I took those out completely, it was next level.
Totally. So do you keep any type of plant food in, like coffee or?
No, so I've never been a coffee drinker. Tried to get on that train here when since I've been in California, because it's such a big deal here. But no, my body just doesn't process caffeine well. So even decaf will kind of keep me flying, and I can't. So when I was keto and started carnivore, I was doing matchas, but I haven't done that in well over a year.
We just did a video on coffee, so I have all my props sitting here.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not a coffee drinker. I'll honestly just drink like hot water in the morning if I'm cold during the winter, but it's 75 and sunny here.
What's your stats on honey, out of curiosity?
Personally, I have no interest in honey. I never liked honey, even on a standard American diet.
Got it.
As far as recommending it to other people, people will talk about digestive issues with carbohydrates. So I think it's good to utilize as a carbohydrate in terms of stimulating their appetite and stimulating their sugars if they need to gain weight. Because there are many clients that I have that are, they've lost too much and then they've increased fat and they're still not gaining. So it can be used in that sense. Do I think it needs to be part of every carnivore's diet? No, I'm not a huge proponent of honey. It's like, if it's a matter of calories or it's a matter of adding in some carb for a symptom that they're having, you can try it because it generally doesn't cause digestive issues. Like if you were to introduce rice or squash or certain vegetables, people still say that no, it makes me bloated or it changes my bowel habits. So in that regard, honey is an easier option, but I don't push honey.
And bears aside, what's the most honey you've ever seen somebody eat? It's like, I mean, generally people have it in pretty small quantities.
Yeah, like a tablespoon or two.
It's a lot different than chugging soda and eating chips all day.
Right.
So you start the day off with some cereal, and some coffee with sugar in it, and some toast.
Yeah.
And then, you've got a ton of sugar right there. And then you hit lunch and you're eating a sandwich and everything in it's got sugar added to it. And then you're drinking it with a soda, and that's a lot of sugar. A spoonful of honey.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's, I mean, I don't fault people if they want to incorporate it, but being this like, meat, water, salt, honey, like, no, I don't really think it needs that much attention.
Yeah, there's a lot of theories floating around out there where it's like I get it, maybe we're adapted to eat some honey or something, but where is there any sort of indicator that we need it?
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
yeah. I think they're blowing out of proportion. Like if you
Yeah.
want to try and add carbs and you want to try and find like the safest way where you can just see how it's going to affect your blood sugar and see how it affects your energy, or if you're utilizing it as a tool for workouts, like, okay, honey, that's quick, easy. You can experiment with it pretty easily as well. But again, making it a carnivore food is just kind of weird in my
Yeah,
mind.
and people want to beat that. They're like, oh, well, technically it's it's an animal-based product, so it's okay.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, well, it's not the same thing as saying you need it, you know.
right.
Right.
And we can argue about how many honeybees can dance on the head of a pin, but it doesn't really it doesn't really mean it's good for you, you know.
Yeah, no, and especially with diabetics, and yes, you can become reverse your insulin resistance with this diet, but that doesn't mean you know honey, just incorporating that. You still have to be careful. You still have to watch spikes, and just because it's considered by some carnivores safe, it may completely spike someone's blood sugar who they think they've reversed disease to whatever degree, and they're not quite there yet. And then honey puts them back and causes symptoms, and they become hypoglycemic after it. And so you do have to be careful. It can't just be this, well, honey's okay because somebody said it was in the carnivore space.
Right.
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 And
Yeah.
that's kind of, oh, go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead.
Something that I wanted to touch on, like, because I consider you like the professional status of carnivore, which is
Well,
really cool.
thank you.
And so it's like, do you ever see posts or people talk? Because we here, I think, try to, we're laymen's and we study and
Not at all.
research and we try to put information forward as best as we can. But, none of us are researchers in a clinical sense or
Yeah.
in a professional sense. So, I mean, do you ever see like posts or do you see people saying things that you're like, it's not quite right? Or, man, them saying that makes my job even more difficult when they do come to me because they tried this and they're all kinds of messed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I really think getting like a thorough medical history is very, very important. And, just because someone in the space says honey is okay or that they're thriving on honey and it really helps them, you have to do your own experiments. But again, you do have to be careful with it. So having that like guidance and a professional to help you through it rather than just having tablespoons and tablespoons of honey in one day. Versus whether you mix it with your proteins and your fats and how your body digests it that way versus having it first thing in the morning. Like these are all things that you have to consider. You can't just go by someone saying, well, my energy went up with honey, you should try it. It's even if we got off honey and said white rice, everybody really reacts differently. So as far as research, it's lacking. I commend Sean Baker just getting this clinical trial thing going and promoting it as much as he is, because it really is so important. We have data with ketogenic approaches and low carb. So I think if anything, looking to those as far as cholesterol and blood sugar spikes, and those are helping us for sure. But in the sense of zero carb and this physiologic insulin resistance that some people are experiencing, and then all of a sudden incorporating honey, there's some lines that we're unclear of. There's a lot of gray still.
Yeah, and it's good that you point that out. It's very individual.
Yeah.
Because if you do need more calories for some reason,
Yes.
honey and white rice is probably the place to go if you just can't
Yeah.
eat enough meat. And professional athletes will do that all the time, especially the really big guys that burn a lot of calories. I know I follow a lot of the strongest men in the world type competitors, and they really can't eat enough meat, so they wind up eating typically a lot of white rice because it digests easy. And I think that's like one of the like beacons of truth that I keep finding in carnivores. When you take all the things out of your diet other than meat, let's say meat and water, then you start adding things in, you realize how much your digestion was interrupted by all kinds of other things that you think it's normal. right? We think we normalize acid reflux or heartburn and GERD and, you know, a rumbling stomach and diarrhea and constipation and just
Definitely.
not feeling good. We've normalized all that, and then getting sick and having allergies, you know, getting a cold and a flu every year. And then all of a sudden you're like, you get your diet right, and you're like, man, I haven't had a cold in a long time. I haven't had the
Yeah,
flu. You know, what the
you
hell
develop
happened?
a new normal. That being
Yes.
said, though, you know, people are also, when they are reintroducing foods, which I work with a lot of clients on that, and they do have, you know, any type of little flicker in their stomach, it's that, oh no, I can't eat this. Like I'm having digestive issues. So I, to the same effect where yes, you can take out so many of those digestive issues with reintroductions, you will temporarily have a little bit of digestive issues because you're getting used
Used
to
to it again.
Sure.
new things like new fiber and even, you know, your microbiome is changing. So having that a little bit temporarily is normal.
Sure.
But it's when it's long term or when you notice it, you know, more immediate, or like cruciferous vegetables, for example, can cause a lot of gas, bloating. Like there's a degree that is, okay, we're reintroducing this versus, okay, that's just way too much. Like that shouldn't happen when you eat that.
Right.
So again, finding that balance for people, but they are, because they feel so good with meat and or eggs and don't have those symptoms, then they are afraid also to reintroduce things. So
Yeah,
it
I
it
could see
depends.
that. Yeah, it depends. It's an individual and subjective sort of thing. It's like not everybody gets keto or carnivore flu. Some people
Yeah,
just feel great. But anytime you
definitely.
drastically change your diet, you could easily run the risk of at least diarrhea or constipation, right?
Yeah, for
But it
sure.
should be short lived, should be
Yeah,
short term.
should be short term, definitely.
Yeah.
Agreed. And it's, you know, it's being consistent. Like actually, when you are doing reintroductions or you're even testing out certain things like egg whites versus, or egg yolks versus whole eggs, it does have to be strategic. Like you don't just try it once, you have to try it multiple days in a row. And that can be the only thing that changes. Like you're not going to introduce coffee and eggs at the same time. You do one at a time for a couple days in a row, and then you're also going to give your body a couple days to react. So I say at least a week at a time for each new introduction.
Yeah, I agree with
I
you
agree.
on that one. Don't try and do too many things at once.
Yeah, no, people are like, well, I had coffee, I had a latte. And I was like, well, and they weren't having dairy. And I'm like, well, you just had coffee, you had caffeine, and you had
And
dairy all in one go. Like, we don't know what caused what.
Right.
right.
So yeah, you really got to dial in if you do want to reincorporate things.
Hey, and abusing caffeine is not for everybody.
No. I definitely recommend patients to at least be off caffeine. I ideally would say try like full 6 weeks. Some of them are like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do 2 or 4. So, but like a couple weeks just to see how it affects your sleep. And I think a lot of people, they'll say, yeah, no, I definitely slept better. Or it just was more routine in my sleep schedule. And yeah, you just got to try it.
Yeah, speaking of coffee, Joe Zumba wanted us to say hi to you. We redid a coffee video that got mangled in the machine, and that
Oh,
was a thing. He loves coffee. He's Italian, so he's got to drink his espresso.
okay.
But it was killing his stomach. He's a cyclist, so he got out cycling, and his stomach all of a sudden was just wrecked. And it
Yeah.
turned out it's just coffee. So something he's been drinking more or less his whole life, gave it up, tried to go back to it, and mostly for social reasons, and it was just wasn't working for him.
I wonder how like he drinks it.
Just espresso shots,
Okay, because
black.
espresso actually has it's less acidic because it's not the actual like roasting of it. It's such a quick flash, like heated heat to the bean, that it's actually less acidic. But yeah, no, it's interesting. It does, it varies for everyone, but I've definitely seen my share of people with coffee and acid reflux.
It had changed his blood work a little bit too. It was a relatively minor amount, but
Oh,
he
it was
just happens to
lipase?
be a patient of Paul Mason. So
Okay.
Paul Mason, sat down and kind of ran it through the mill. and they
Yeah.
determined it was pretty clearly the coffee, and he quit the coffee, and everything went back to normal.
Yeah, no, for people who just want that coffee taste, Purity is actually a really clean brand.
Purity.
Purity, and they do very, very clean. It's organic. They test for mold, they test for metals as well.
So
And
anybody who's read Dave Asprey's book, you know all about mold in coffee.
Yes, yes. That is a big concern because with part of labs, I'll test also for heavy metals. So they do all their lab testing, and it's probably the best quality coffee I've seen. But again, if
We're
it's
all
the
Googling it
acid.
right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to swing back about, colds and stuff like that. So what is a carnivore to do with the occasional? So I've had 2 sinus infections since going carnivore. I used to get them like every 6 months. They were really, really bad. I was raised on antibiotics basically. I think I was
Yeah.
doing antibiotics from the age of like 4 or whatever, basically. But I quit that. I haven't used antibiotics. I tried to kick this stuff naturally. They seem to only last like a week. I have some fatigue, and the sinus pressure is still there. But
Yeah.
it's like I don't want to do antibiotics. I don't want any kind of plant, this, that, or the other. So I'm
Hmm.
just curious, like bone broth. Like I'm just curious what.
Yeah, bone broth is definitely an option, for focusing on healing the gut, and with gelatin, like collagen, that's the biggest, uh, you know, healing properties of the bone broth. So for the gut particularly, but also, if you're thinking of the immune system, getting your vitamin D, um, so definitely, as far as food sources, if you can't get out in the sun, getting those quality animal fats, whether it's suet or trimmings for DE and K, and also, zinc. Eat some oysters. Those are going to be your highest source for that. Um, Other immune boosters, if you're worried about vitamin C, sweetbreads are a great source of vitamin C. Really, the organ meats in general are going to be your biggest bang for your buck as far as nutrients. So the more organs you can incorporate. It's funny, I had someone reach out to me who wanted to work with me, and he just got tested positive for COVID. So we rescheduled, but he was like, well, what do I do now? Like, I've been eating carnivore. What do you suggest? And just like I said bone broth, keep up your electrolytes, stay well hydrated, get out in the sun if you can, and eat some organ meats. And he's like, nope, sounds about right.
What's your feel about supplements?
Honestly, I feel that we have gone from standard American diet to whole food approach, whether it's paleo, keto, or carnivore. And then if we're going back on these supplements, it's like, you can't supplement your way out of a poor diet. So even if you're doing carnivore, like, the food option is there for those organ meats. Like, to say that, oh, I can't stomach it, I don't know. I think it's an excuse. I'm a much bigger proponent for the real food.
Real
I
food.
don't think we know the absorption of these supplements. Even if they say, grass fed, grass finished, this is top quality, you're taking 6 to 8 tablets of those a day, whatever they're wrapped in, they're encased in, you're getting probably just as much as that as you are the actual organ. And so, as even organ supplements aside, and just looking at other supplements, the only ones that I really think that we may suffer getting through food, and that we can always use more of, is magnesium, which just is lacking in our water. And the other thing would be vitamin D for people who just can't, they're in climates where they can't have it. Is it a different type? Like, are you getting the same benefit from the sun? No, it's definitely different. I would much rather you be out in the sun. But for biochemical processes, just to make sure you have vitamin D for your magnesium and for your mood, it does affect a lot. So those are the two that I would say, if I do recommend them, that's it. Otherwise, I get people off supplement. As soon as I see a fish oil supplement, it's like, oh my God, nix that immediately. or a multivitamin. I'm like, no.
Oh yeah, definitely not that.
I
Yeah.
thought rancid fish oil was the elixir of life.
I would rather you have rancid salmon roe.
That's really funny because like I was a vitamin supplement junkie. Like I
Yeah.
feel weird that I don't really take anything anymore.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
and I'd been the naturopaths. The naturopaths were telling me that you have to take 13 supplements in order
Yeah,
to
so
like I would
that
have stacks of bottles, you know, and I did that for
definitely.
years and years, you know. It's just so
That's definitely
crazy.
something I've noticed because now that I am more in that kind of functional medicine space, people who come to me, they have usually seen like a naturopath prior and tried to get a hold of their diet prior to going carnivore with a naturopath. And they said, yeah, their first approach is really supplements. Even, I mean, it really depends on the person and the naturopath, but pretty consistently they say, no, they
Yes.
gave me more supplements than I started with.
Yes.
And that is, I'm the opposite for sure.
And outside of that, I mean, I think everybody will agree with me. We know all kinds of people. We were all guilty of it probably in the past, of taking all kinds of supplements and not having any idea whether we needed them or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounded like a good idea.
Or what it does.
So that's my first question is when did they start it and what did it change for them?
Right.
And usually it's, oh, years ago. No, I don't notice a difference. Okay, well, let's get away from it then. And then if we need to reintroduce it, because like, was the concern that you were deficient in that prior, or was it just that this could help you in some way? So let's throw it at you.
Mhm.
I'm gonna
I
live
was
forever
so
if I just
scared.
take this.
Yeah.
Like I was emotionally attached to my fish oil, to my magnesium, you know, the one that they
Yeah.
had me on, to this, that, and the other, you know, like going carnivore, even getting better. I was like, okay, this week I'm quitting this supplement. The next week I'm gonna quit this supplement and see what happens with like pure anxiety. Like it was a struggle, and there's not a lot of people like I don't know what it is. Like I want to start a group for people that are trying to get off supplements because
Yeah.
there's not enough attention to it because just
I
like
agree.
the
No,
hold
people,
it has on you psychologically
yeah.
is
And
insane.
it's an easy sell because it's easy to take a pill. People
Mhm.
will much rather take a pill than going. And if you even look at these organ supplements they're coming out, you know, $40 a bottle, you can go buy a pound of beef liver for $8. Like,
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
and
if
you
you're
know
getting,
what you're getting, you know the amounts, you are absorbing it when you're eating it as a whole food versus these pills we don't know. And to me, it's going through a warehouse. It's in a processed facility. It's still a processed thing. Um,
And
so
like you said about the liver, I mean, you could actually literally cut it up into little chunks, freeze
yeah,
it, and then take it as a pill that way.
absolutely. So it's a matter of doing that little bit of extra work
Right.
and knowing. I personally think it's worth it because you're knowing where it's coming from and exactly how it's
yeah,
prepared.
yeah, go to the store, get some liver, cut it up, freeze it, and take a
So
few of those
easy.
every
It's like
day and
a
see if it
weekly
makes
meal
sense.
prep, you know, that's
Exactly.
just takes with COVID, what else do you have to do?
Well, we don't want to hog your time up. I know you got some constraints. Did you have any parting comments before we wind this up?
Honestly, I'm here to help in any way that I can. I love, you know, being around like-minded people, and this community I think is absolutely fantastic. The more we can spread, the more awareness. I'm all about it. So it is Nose to Tail November. So as you know, I'm a huge person with the organ meats, and I'll be posting a challenge up just to try and spread the word to incorporate these things more easily and make it more mainstream, more of a habit as opposed to being fearful of it. So check that out. Again, IG, Facebook, I'll give you all of my links and everything. You can write in on a form on my website as well. My email's up there. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to work with clients one-on-one, Q&A, lab recommendations, review of labs that they've already had, and then even coming up with custom dietary plans, looking at macros, looking at food quality. How can we kind of take the carnivore diet or lifestyle to the next level? Looking at also things like sleep and maximizing vitamin D and and all of those things. So making it a true lifestyle and really regaining your health is my mission. And I'm here for any questions and anybody that wants to move forward with the movement as well.
I did have one question for you, speaking of nose to tail.
Yes.
Which animal has the best tasting nose?
Haven't tried, but I have had the tails and the
Yes,
testicles.
tails are
See,
awesome.
Had
I
the
think
other ends.
Yeah, there you go.
Ox-
Do it.
Oxtails is as close as I've gotten to a
Oxtails
tail.
are the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had oxtail and testicles. Beef testicles, it honestly does not have an organ taste whatsoever. It tastes like seafood. So
I'm not
just
trying
because you're getting closer to the tail doesn't mean it's more scary.
That's good.
It's great for freaking your friends out too.
I know.
that.
It's like the size of your head. It's crazy.
Well, I
Thank you
appreciate.
so much for having me.
Oh, it's
I'm
an
glad we
absolute
got to finally
pleasure.
do this.
Yes, we should do more for sure. Any topic
Absolutely.
that people want to write in a topic to discuss, I'm happy to, by all
Well,
means.
You're always welcome back, and I apologize for it taking so long. I wanted to collaborate with you a lot
No, it's
sooner,
no
and
problem.
life happened,
That's right,
But now we're
Life-
here.
for
So,
sure. But we'll get on another one, definitely.
yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
Mhm.
Thank you
Yes,
so,
you're a
so
wealth
much,
of
guys.
knowledge. Thank you,
Every-
Austin.
Everybody out here, if you have any complaints, just email them to Austin. Otherwise, if you have praise and adulation, make sure to leave that in the comments below in the video.
That's right.
Hit that
And,
like button. Smash the
thumbs
like.
up. And make sure you stay subscribed. Send the links out to your friends. Eat some meat, feel better, and whatever you do,
Don't fall
Don't
down
fall
the
down the
carb
carb
hole.
hole.